Hello and welcome to Spotlight On, right here on S24 Television. My today's guest should probably be worried about school assignments, football with friends, or what most children his age are doing. Instead, he is speaking at international conferences, advocating for children's rights, addressing policymakers, and representing millions of children whose voices are rarely heard. He was born in Borno State. Ibrahim Zanna Sunoma survived the realities of conflict, displacement, and interrupted childhood. Yet, rather than allowing those experiences define him, he transformed them into a mission. Today, he serves as Deputy Speaker of the Nigerian National Children's Parliament and has become one of the country's most recognized child advocates. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about Ibrahim is this: he's still a child. At a time when adults dominate conversations about education, peace, security, and governance, a difficult question emerges. Why are children still fighting for rights adults should already guarantee? And what does it say about a society when some of its strongest advocates are children themselves? Ibrahim Zanna, welcome to Spotlight On.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you in the studio today.
Thank you.
So, quickly, let's, peep into your childhood. Tell us about your childhood. Away from the advocacy, away from your achievement, who is Ibrahim?
I was born and brought up in Bama local government area of Borno State.
Yeah.
I think when you say Bama, for the past decade, people see it as the Afghanistan of Nigeria, It is a place recognized for its conflict. It is a place recognized for violence and war. And, being brought up in a community like that really shapes the way you come out as a person. We have gone through a very, very, very tough situations. I think just trying to look at your peers, there are some situations where even no horror movie could explain the type of, violence we have seen and we have had. So growing up in a very conflict-affected region, it really raises a lot of thoughts at a very young age. I think nobody deserves to be thinking of such thoughts at a very young age when their rights should be given to them as a right, not as a privilege. I and my peers saw school something like a privilege that people can't afford to manage. But school is a right for everyone.
Of course.
So, it gives a lot of thoughts. As Ibrahim, we thought about, okay, why is this happening to us? Why are children around the world, enjoying the privileges of them going to school in a very safe and conducive environment for them? And think, the stories our grandmothers used to tell us, I think history has taught us that children in general are keen in their pursuit of knowledge. They are filled with potential, not just for themselves, but for their families, their communities, for the nation at large. So, and us growing up with this very dented history, we settle for any future. And that is what happens when, a child grows up in a conflict zone. So growing up, alhamdulillah, I think now we can be able to say that things are getting better because looking at, what we were 10 years ago is not where we are now. And I began to have thoughts about advocacy at the age of 9. I was 9 years old when I got interested in public speaking, in about being passionate to speak up for other people, because due to the horrific experiences I had and due to questions we used to ask ourselves.
So from 9 years old, you were already, built to be this way.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know you said that things are now better. They're not as they used to be before. But would you say that all of these experiences stole your childhood from you?
I think these experiences have robbed us of the beauty of our childhood. I think looking at, for me, even when I began my advocacy journey, people would see me on these big stages, in these big rooms, and they say, oh, you're so mature for your age and you're doing excellently. But what people don't see are those childhood moments we have replaced with responsibility. The carefree days we'll never get back, trying to, have a form of responsibility at a very young age when you should be enjoying your childhood, playing with your friends. We didn't have that luxury at that time. So I think looking at my own journey, I think we had to sacrifice our own childhoods for us to be able to be part of conversations with adults today.
So I would have loved to ask you that. What were your aspirations while you were younger? But you said you started advocacy at 9 years. At 9 years, so many of us don't even know where we are headed.
Yeah.
But what were your aspirations away from, from being an advocate and all of that? Maybe you had other dreams before now.
Yeah, I think growing up, I always wanted to become a lawyer. I always wanted to become a barrister. But for my inspiration, for the person I've become today, I would say, if I were to say people who inspired me, I would say, they say charity begins at home.
Yeah.
And my brothers, my siblings were all involved in some part of advocacy. I remember when I was around 9, my brother was the SUG president in University of Maiduguri. So, I was just looking at how they were able to conduct themselves, how they were able to, represent people, really inspired me to also become, someone like them. And I would say God in His infinite mercy.
So as it is now, you can still become a lawyer because you're kind of close doing advocacy.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So it's you're still on the right path. So people see the bold Ibrahim now. They see that you're very outspoken and all of that. But are there memories that are hard for you to forget? And by that time you were so afraid that you can't even speak up?
I think for someone to be a responsible person at a very young age, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. I have personally faced a lot of challenges, especially from people even around you, your friends, your peers, in your communities.
Let's hear your story.
So I would remember there was a time I went for a little community visit because I started my advocacy on social media.
Yeah.
So I used to post videos about COVID-19. I used to post videos on, issues affecting children by that time, the child labor, the other things around that. So I think, number one, being exposed to social media at a very young age and looking at how social media was a place that was not being controlled. So a person can say anything they want. So I think looking at a lot of comments from people, comments from friends that, okay, why are you doing this at a very young age?
Yeah.
Who do you think you are to involve yourself in things like this? Let the adults handle things like this. But I think, I also growing up with a belief that anything for us without us is not truly for us. So any decision being made without us, I believe it's like a decision being made against us. So I was saying a story. I went to a community for an outreach because we didn't have the resources, the funding by then because I was very young. We went to a community of traditional rulers and leaders. And we went about a cultural belief they had about tribal marks on children. And I sought to think that, okay, these things just cause harm to our children and it does more harm to them rather than trying to diversify their culture or trying to identify them in some way. So I think we went to the community. It was very difficult to have an audience there because there was like, okay, there's a young kid outside wanting to speak to some of these traditional rulers and leaders. So I had to struggle a lot. I came back the next day, I did this, I did that, but finally I found a little audience and I remember I practiced what I was going to say to them about the tribal marks and everything. Looking at them, I even spoke in my own language so that they will be able to relate with me as part of the community. But when I spoke, it was very discouraging for me to continue my advocacy then because I remember there were a lot of hateful comments that come out of what I've said. This boy, we have been practicing a belief for how many years now, and then he comes and he's now
and because you're a child, who are you to come and tell them about
who am I to come and tell them? So those kind of beliefs and those kind of challenges were very, very prominent growing up as as the advocacy stuff we do. But I would say really it was the people around me, my close family, my relatives who just inspired me to keep going.
So just like those people, I want us to get let me ask you some uncomfortable question. So let's get personal now. Why are you actually doing this work? Don't you think the adults should already be doing this for you? Why do you think you need to do this?
I think looking at our situation today, it warrants a lot of things to happen. Number one, I generally don't believe that a child has to put a sort of responsibility on himself at such a very young age. But then it's not about how things are supposed to be. It's about how things are now.
Yeah,
So,
things
you know,
that are warranting you to become who you
exactly,
are.
if we say, okay, things are going very smoothly, things are going very fine, and, you know, children are enjoying their privileges, I will be somewhere now playing football with my friends and laughing and
Of
going to school.
course.
But things are not as we speak of them. Things are not as we thought of them to be. So looking at that really kind of would give you any room for you to see that, okay, how well do you contribute to things around that? And I think just as a child, whatever you are exposed to early, I think children are very, very fragile people. Whatever you're exposed to early, you would develop passion for that thing and try to strive to be best at whatever you
Just
do.
like you said, it's not like that is what you actually wanted,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
the situation
The
warrants
situation
that
warrants
you
that.
wake up and speak up for yourself.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
are there moments where you ever feel frustrated about what you're doing because you know you shouldn't be doing this, but you have to?
Yeah, I think moments that would truly frustrate you is when you are doing these things and people don't really listen to what you say. Because, you know, looking at the way we speak and advocate for things to change. But then we don't hold that power to change the things. So, you know, there's a lacuna between us speaking and then us being able to implement some of these things and being able to change decisions in our communities. So, you know, when I see that as children, we are just being used as, you know, tools for a lot of adults.
Yeah.
You see us on the banners of donors and events. You see children smiling on pictures, and they're there as a form of photograph and as a form of symbol.
Campaigns,
But where are we when there are closed door meetings being held on what type of intervention comes to this
So
community?
you think children should be on the table
Yeah,
when
I think
decisions
children
about them are
should
making?
be there because we have the first-hand experiences.
Yeah.
You cannot solve a problem you don't fully
Without the people who
understand
experience
what is going through.
So, but some of these leaders, like you said, are just using children. If you say they use children for tools, maybe for campaign and all. Why do you think those older leaders are underestimating children?
No, I think it's probably looking at where I grew up. I know it's mostly this type of belief we had in our cultures, in our communities, especially leaders from my own personal tribe, leaders from the people around me. Mostly is that they used to say that what an adult can see
Of course.
while sitting down, a child cannot see even if he
when
climbs on top of the mountain. So, you know, with this belief, it's really difficult for you to see a child as a very important person in the society.
So I personally think some proverbs should go into extinction because it should not work for us anymore at this time and day.
But we have to, let's give it to them. We have to be fair though. Being an adult comes with a lot of experiences, you know, they're experienced people.
Yeah.
Age comes with experience. But for me, now I'm arguing that also pain also comes with experience.
Exactly.
Looking at things children go through today, the children on the streets, the children who their parents have abandoned them, those pain that they carry are experiences as well that they need to share. And now adults are trying to solve these problems. So those pain they carry are the experiences. So now it means that even children themselves who go through a lot have those experiences that you know these adults have. And I always say to my peers, especially regarding things of advocacy, you should always try to see as young people, we understand how to speak with adults. Because there's a way you speak with your government, speak with adults that makes you a little bit more reasonable. For example, I know my friends used to tell me, this guy, when we see him on social media, it's like he's acting like he's a big man now.
Yeah.
But then you have to a little bit fit in their own shoes for you to be able to look responsible and for them to listen.
So have you been in a room with, you know, adults, powerful political leaders, and they were actually listening?
Yeah, I think that was one of the most fulfilling moments for me so far. It was a very closed-door meeting on about children, especially about children who their education is now in a state of emergency. A meeting in Banjul, Gambia. Then I think it was mostly a round table of a lot of adults and leaders, people from the African Union, people from international organizations, and I was there as a part of the voices for the children affected by the conflict, affected by the displacement of their education. And I remember they were developing a work plan on how well they can be able to see that education in emergencies are being protected.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to the event, I had my own personal experiences with, there was this document, it was the Child Rights Act. This document is there to see that children learn, survive, and are protected even in terms of emergencies. So,
Okay.
and I remember being part of my recommendations for these leaders was that this document should be, like leaders and governments in West Africa should be influenced to see that, okay, this document is being signed and is being implemented in their own states. And I remember after, when they sent me a report of the meeting of the communique, I could see that, okay, my inputs and my own recommendations were actually taken, were there. And even in the steps forward, I was involved in actually trying to see how well we can push for governments to also support this document. So it was a very fulfilling moment, and you can see the power of young people when they speak. So I think it gives me hope. Gives me hope for the future.
That is so inspiring to hear. You know, people see your awards, they see how much you're recognized, they've seen your success now, but people don't see the failures, the sacrifices, the time you sit and wonder if you even want to stop or you want to continue this. Talk to us about your sacrifices.
I think one of the major sacrifices I had to make was actually sacrificing the little time I had to kind of explore my own childhood as well. One of the major sacrifices was actually trying to manage my time in a way where I can balance both my advocacy work and school. Because just imagine a 9-year-old going to conferences, going to events, and somebody that is 13, 12, you have school to attend every day. Okay. So looking at how these responsibilities are too much, you have to make a lot of sacrifices in order to balance the two. I could remember when I used to come home, when I used to go to even events, when I used to go, any free time I had, I was always trying to see how will I catch up with things that I'm missing on school. Because, okay, I have an exam coming up, I have a lecture now, I have a class now, and you need to. So my friends, they send me the notes, these things. I come back home, I try to copy my notes again, I try to this and that. I don't really have time to kind of just enjoy enjoy the time of being a child. So I think it was one of the most huge sacrifices I have made, because I really understand that wherever I am now because of my advocacy work, it was because of the beautiful background my parents invested in me to have education.
Were there times when you were frustrated, you cried, you had sleepless nights?
There are some times when even your own parents, your own siblings sometimes try to push you to focus more on other things, especially I would say probably school, and try to influence you in order to stop some things. Because looking at what I was doing, I could remember there was a time people in my own community were a little bit fed up with some of the things I've said. So they were sending threats to me that, okay, oh no, they are going to come to this particular school, or are going to come to this particular time, and if I don't stop what I'm doing, they were sending threats to a child. If I don't stop what I'm doing, they'll come, they'll kidnap me, they'll do this, they'll do that. And even when your parents see this, okay, they're like, you have to like stop a little bit, give it a little bit of time. So they were really, really tough times, I would say. But I think there was a lot of prayers, and there was prayers from my parents.
So how were you able to cope?
Yeah, it was mostly, I think it was mostly prayers. I pray a lot. My parents pray for me a lot. And it was mostly just the people I had. They're excellent people. My siblings are excellent people.
So do you have friends? Do your friends actually really understand the kind of person you are? Because for your age group, they might think, oh, this person, he talks too much and he's very boring. So do you keep friends, and how do you manage? Yeah,
I think as someone very exposed, you cannot escape friends, because you see
you might be having friends that are older than you, not your age.
Exactly. Most of my friends, if you see, they are people that are older than me. Exactly. Because I'm able to relate with them when we sit and when we talk. But I think if you are a little bit exposed, and maybe people who are interested in what we do, they always want to, be your friend. And I think it's very important to have friends as well who are like-minded, not just friends who have different passions. But if you have like-minded friends, I have like-minded friends. There's this saying that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. So if you have, I befriend like-minded people, and my personal friends are there as well, but it's really you are the, like, let's say, you stand out among your friends because, okay, now you have something to do. I'm always the one canceling the plans. I'm always the one saying, oh no, I have to go here. I can't be with you.
So let me not say you're the black sheep, but you look like the white sheep.
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
You've always talked about children affected by conflict. Is there a story behind this?
Yeah, I would say the reason I always talk about children affected by armed conflict is that looking at people, current people in our societies, people who have grown up that are causing the conflict themselves are people who have went through violence at an early age. So, you know, whatever they experience, they try to reciprocate. And there's always one message I say when it comes to children affected by armed conflict is that if we don't take care of these children, if we don't ensure these things are not happening, they will end up being the monsters that will consume all of us. They will end up being the monsters that will come and then consume all of us and wreak havoc in our society. And I remember the story of a young girl named Aisha. Aisha was a young girl. She would wake before her mother every morning, and she would fold her prayer mat, she would carry her school, her bags, she would pack her bags and go to school with a type of seriousness that children from where I come from understand that, okay, school is a privilege that you know, we can afford to manage. So I remember on a normal Monday morning, men came to their communities, they came with guns, they came with fire, and an ideology that had decided long before we were born that a girl holding a pencil was a political threat or something. So looking at, we sat with her, she told me her story about how her favorite subject was maths in school. And she had been counting, even when those men came, she had been counting the number of men, the sounds, the direction they came from, the roads they took when they took them and left. Like, imagine a young girl, she's conducting a threat assessment. You know, a young 7-year-old girl conducting a threat assessment in this type of situations. It goes to show you the potential of our children. And just hearing from her story, we sat down and thought that, okay, this is not just one story. These are stories happening countless around the world.
And that child can be used positively
and that child can be
negatively.
used positively to influence our own society. She was very good at counting. She was very good at maths. Imagine the person she would become if, you know, people invested in her potential and her talent. So it was just these type of conversations that really shaped me to always, wherever I go, I always remember that, okay, I am from a background where children have been affected by a conflict, and this is the reason why I started all this. So I never forget
you know,
this.
Away from conflict, children in Nigeria are experiencing poverty. They experience the effects of climate and change. They experience the social media pressure and all of that. Would you say that childhood is becoming difficult in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think childhood is already difficult in Nigeria because of the situations you have mentioned. I think poverty is the root of all evil. If you look at a lot of conversations around climate, conversations around conflict, the root cause is poverty. And poverty brings about hunger. In places like Sudan now, hunger devours children faster than even bullets do. You look at, you know, it's a way of saying that if you look at the condition of children now, especially in the Northeast, looking at the Almajiri children, the children on the streets, who have to go through a lot. And I think they are the majority when it comes to children who are rather, okay, maybe have a safe place, they have a safe parents, you know, working parents and stuff. So looking at a lot of these numbers, 1 in every out of 5 child in Nigeria is out of school, according to a UNICEF report. So just imagine these numbers. These numbers are majority when it comes to other children enjoying these privileges. So you would say that childhood has become a very, very difficult something for children in Nigeria, mostly looking at also social media and how, you know, children are being used in social media, exploited on social media as well. So there are a lot of things that has exposed children to things that maybe they shouldn't be exposed at a very young age. So I would say childhood is really difficult, and that is why even our parents, even people, our friends, people in community need to all step up their game in seeing how well we can make childhood safe for our children so that they can make the next generation to come safe as well when they go.
For the next generation, what do you fear more about the future?
I think one thing I fear more about the future is that it will come to a time where people will become very comfortable with things happening around them. Even if you look at our situation today, we have started to transition into being comfortable with things that should keep us up at night.
Yes.
We hear stories of children being abducted, children being kidnapped, and then we sympathize, we scroll past, and that's it, we forget. So if looking at how the way things don't concern you, you feel like things don't concern you in a way, you don't take action. And I think for the future, what I fear is the most that is these things that we ignore today, that will come and haunt them tomorrow. So you really need to create more awareness on actually being responsible for things that happen. Anything that we allow today will come to haunt us tomorrow. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So we need to really create more awareness on this mindset.
Talking about the abduction of children, we've had recent one, and up to now it's about 1 month and some days, and we've not heard from those children. What would you say about, how does that make you feel as a child yourself?
I think the first time I heard, I was let's say I was sympathizing, but then it came to a point where I felt like, okay, this is something that has been happening. This is something unfathomable that has been happening to a lot of my peers before. We have seen this. This is something like you wake up and you will see the news every day. So it has not become something new for us. But for me, what came out of this recent abduction was how people have become very accustomed to these type of things. You would see there is no more any outrage of people. People are just comfortable, people are there, while there are children as young as 4 years old being held in a place where they contributed. They were very innocent that they didn't contribute anything to whatever agenda these people have. So why would you kidnap a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, children who don't even know why you are kidnapping them, and you hold them up in a place and you would be inflicting a lot of violence on them while they are innocent? I think these are things that should hurt any human being with a conscience. When you hear these things, you shouldn't be able to sleep at night.
So for our society, how would you like children to be treated? What way do they treat children that you think should change?
I think one of the main things that should change in our society is, I've always said, we want to change children, so we should give children a space to hear children out. Not just when it comes to big rooms, conferences, decision making. At home, in parents, in your communities, try to listen to your children. Not just really listen to them and take action on what they have said, but as an adult, you have experience. You can be able to say, okay, this is good for you and this is not, but try to listen more to children. You see neglected.
Let's take from 10 years from now, what kind of man do you hope to become?
I think 10 years from now, I would love to be someone that, even if I'm gone, people will remember who I am.
Would you still be an advocate?
Yeah, sure. I would never stop advocating for people because I believe our voices are very strong, and I have seen firsthand what they can do when we actually...
Have you ever thought about politics, venturing into politics?
Yeah, I think for me, politics is rather not something I was passionate about starting out, but now looking at politics, I think politics is like the voice of the people. So it's not what you choose as someone to be passionate about, but politics, okay, gives you real power to influence these decisions. And if people want you to be part of politics, I think it's good to take up that responsibility. So
would you want to be in politics?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibrahim Zanna. Let's move to our final segment where we relax all of the tension of, Nigeria is very hard. There's no how you're going to have conversation like this and don't feel tears. Let's go to the rapid fire where you're given the chance to just answer one question.
Okay.
Don't practice political statements. Just one question. Childhood or leadership?
Leadership.
Okay. Books or speeches?
Speeches.
Okay. Hope or anger?
Hope.
School or advocacy?
School.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, school.
Okay. Peace or justice?
Peace.
Can children change the world? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do adults listen enough?
No.
Has conflict stolen childhoods?
Yes.
Should children influence policy?
Yes.
Are you optimistic about Nigeria's future?
Definitely.
Now, let's finish this sentence. A child should never have to do what?
worry about his own future and try to fight for his own future.
But they're actually doing that now. The biggest mistake adults make is?
Not listening to children.
Peace begins when dash.
Peace begins when there is peace in our families and our communities.
All right. If leaders truly listen to children, the future, if leaders, or do leaders truly listen to children rather?
No.
So the future belongs to who?
Children.
The future belongs to children. It's no longer future leaders. Okay, thank you so much for your time, Ibrahim Zanna. It's been an insightful conversation with you. You know, audience, most children inherit the words adults create. Some children, however, find themselves trying to fix it. Ibrahim Zanna is one of them. His story is not simply about advocacy. It is about resilience. It is about a generation refusing to wait for permission before demanding change. And perhaps it is also a reminder that when children are forced to become leaders, adults should ask themselves why. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Spotlight on S24 Television. My name is Zainab Ibrahim. Goodbye for now.